Joe, I want to tell you a story, a little Monday morning tale.
Great.
About a man that scammed Netflix out of $11 million. And no, I'm not talking about David Harbour for phoning in the last 2 seasons of Stranger Things.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I told you I had a good opening
That's
line.
a really
Did you
good
like
one.
that? That one's for you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm talking about a man named Carl Rinsk, who was indicted by federal prosecutors last week for wire fraud, money laundering, a bunch of other shit. And he could end up spending the rest of his life in prison, Joe. Now, who is Carl Rinsk, and what the hell did he do to Netflix that got him so mad?
Yeah.
Well, Rinsk is an American director who... up until, if you look at his Wikipedia, he has one major project to his name, and that was 2013's 47 Ronin, a fantasy action movie starring Keanu Reeves. Do you remember 47 Ronin, Joe?
Yes.
You do? Okay, well, you might be the only one, because that was one of the biggest box office bombs of 2013. Now, it did manage to make $152 million worldwide, but the problem was it had a production budget of $175 million plus. Remember 2013? Remember how fun that was? And it single-handedly put Universal in the red for that year. Also, fun fact, Pamela Abdi was a producer on 47 Ronin. We're going to be talking more about her when we talk about Alto Knights, because she's currently running Warner Brothers with Michael DeLuca. But that's it. That's Carl Rinsk's only major project up until the present day is 47 Ronin. Cut to 2020, Joe. Cut to 2020. In your mind, I want you to go ahead 7 years. Rinsk is working on a television series called Conquest that he had Final Cut on. And he had already burned through.
He got Final Cut?
He got Final Cut just for making 47 Ronin, which almost which bankrupted
right, so cut
Universal.
to 2020. So now he's say it again. So he's working on Conquest at what? Netflix?
At Netflix, right? So,
so this is his new show, Conquest at Netflix in 2020. Okay.
And he's been working on this thing for a while. He's working on Conquest for a while. His wife's working on it with him. Netflix decides they say, all right, we're going to make, because this is during that initial sort of streaming boom, 2016 to 2019. They're just greenlighting everything. We need shows, content.
Quitting.
So they gave him an initial $44 million budget to make Conquest. And he had burned through that initial $44 million. And so he asked Netflix for an additional $11 million for what he called various pre- and post-production needs, which should be a red flag there that you're still paying for pre-production and post-production.
I guess you're right. I guess that would be a red flag.
A little bit of a red flag. You should want it for one or the other, probably not both. Sounds like you haven't started the project yet.
All right.
And he reassured Netflix that the Conquest is awesome. It's moving forward really well. But he never showed them any actual footage or very little footage, or he showed them some really killer storyboards or something like that. Anyway, even though they didn't know much about the show they were paying for, they should have at least known that Carl Rinsk was not in very good shape at this point, because apparently it was no secret around the Conquest set that Rinsk was taking loads of amphetamines. He was being verbally abusive to crew members. He also apparently sent an email to Netflix executives stating that he had, quote, found a way to map the coronavirus signal emanating from within the earth. He also told his wife around this time that he had the power to predict lightning strikes and volcanic eruptions.
Did he?
I don't think he did.
Okay, right.
Unverified.
So
Maybe
you're suggesting he was unraveling, or did he actually know that coronavirus was emanating from the core of the earth? You're suggesting he was not well.
Based on subsequent events, I don't think he had the power to predict lightning. I think he was mentally, psychologically unraveling.
Okay.
But despite all of this, despite all of this, Netflix said, all right, we'll give you another $11 million.
Sure, why not?
We haven't seen a minute of this show. You're texting us that you know the coronavirus signal, the secret to coronavirus, stopping coronavirus. What the hell? Here's another $11 million for Conquest. You're the guy that made 47 Ronin, after all. I'm sure this will all work out well. According to the FBI, Rinsk then took that $11 million and blew through it all in about a year without spending a dime of it on the actual television show he was making for Netflix. Here's what he did buy, though, Joe. Buckle up for this. He spent $650,000 on watches and clothing. He bought 5 Rolls Royces and 1 Ferrari. That's another $2.5 million right there.
I hate to already
Feel free to stop me. No, stop me.
I already have to stop.
Yeah, please.
So you're telling me a story about this guy who's just embezzling money, or he's just like not embezzling. He's taking money from Netflix.
It's
and
like
he's just
beyond
stealing
embezzling.
It's
he's
stealing.
just stealing it. He took 11 million supposedly for Conquest, and I'm not even.
And so instead of buying Conquest, the production, he bought himself 6 cars.
$600,000 in watches and clothing. There's a lot more though. This one's very good. He spent $930,000 on 2 mattresses and luxury bedding and linens.
Sleep is important.
I honestly, here's what I'll say. This guy's a crook. I would love to know what that felt like, what that bed felt like. If I could spend one night in Carl Rinska's $930,000 bed, I would probably be a happier person.
As a guy that used to work at a mattress store, let me tell you, it ain't worth
Humble
it, brother.
brag.
It ain't worth it. It's just not. There's no $400,000 mattress. You can put as much horsehair in there. You can put a bunch of Arabian horsehair in there. It's still not worth $400,000.
It's like that point where like spending money on wine becomes useless because it's just indistinguishable. At a point, $930,000. It's like. You could have spent on probably $200,000.
So what's he do? Is he Brewster's millionsing?
Well, hold on, because I still got more on this list.
Yeah.
Okay, he spent $395,000 on luxury hotels, $3.8 million on furniture and antiques, $1.8 million. When that antique store guy sees Rince coming, he's like, "Here we go, baby. Here's my month. Here's my year.
Look at this framed portrait of a bird.
I got this credenza. I think
put it in your bathroom. I got 2 of them.
Yeah, I think we'll call this 17th century. $1.8 million on credit card bills. He was also investing the money in crypto and just immediately losing it. Apparently,
and there we go. And so all right. So that sort of gets to the core of what this fucker was thinking. Yeah,
the cherry on top, though, Joe. The cherry on top. He used $1 million of that $11 million on legal fees to A, finalize his divorce, not surprisingly, and B, to sue Netflix for more money when they finally turned the frickin' spigot off. He used their own money to sue them for more money. So presumably he could buy more.
How'd it go?
Luxury linens. Well, eventually this all caught up to him. Netflix countersued. They won. They're probably not going to be able to get any of that money back because Carl Rinsk is broke. And then last week he was federally indicted for wire fraud, money laundering, et cetera, and could spend the rest of his life in prison. Joe, is there anything to learn from the sad tale of Carl Rinsk as it pertains to the movies?
Yes. You cannot get rich quick from crypto or shitcoin, period. It is not like you are not capable of buying low and correctly selling high. It's not. Everybody thinks this is it's simple. It's just it's so easy. I can just go into the computer. I'll wait till the shitcoin fucking starts to flop and I'll sell. It'll be so fucking easy. This guy thought that he got 11 million and he just talked to his wife because think about it. It's 2020, so it's like the height of COVID, the height of crypto, 0% interest rates. Trump's in office. The whole world has collapsed. He's looking at his wife like, 11 million. If I just put this in Bitcoin tomorrow, it'll be fucking 15 million.
That's
and then we can just take the difference.
That's exactly what he thought. He thought, I'll spend Netflix's, I'll spend like 10 of the 11 on myself. I'll take 1 million, turn that into 20 million, and then it's gravy, baby. It's gravy.
So easy. I remember back in those days, like that was like NFTs were popular, crypto was popular. Yeah. What is it? Dogecoin was popular. Like that was like the thing. So this guy probably put all that money into Dogecoin.
It was Doge.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was Doge.
Okay, so I'm just fucking exactly what happened.
Yes.
Whether you're like a big, handsome, dumb guy with $11 million or an ugly guy with $0, you can't make money doing crypto. You can't. You can't.
You heard it here first.
I famously made $500 on Bitcoin.
This guy won't shut up about it.
I famously one time put money in Bitcoin a long time ago, maybe around this time, and then recently looked at my account and said, yay, I made $500. Yes, yes, yes. So I made money on crypto.
And then he immediately blew it on some Egyptian linens.
I should have. I probably blew it on fucking God knows what. It was like gas, dinner.
I also think there's another lesson. There's another lesson to learn from this sad tale of Carl Rinsk, which is Netflix. What the fuck? Keep an eye on your money.
Oh, right.
This guy's emailing you that like coronavirus signals are emanating from the center of the earth, and you send him $11 million.
But talent's going to talent.
Talent is going to talent.
Often tells me coronavirus is emanating from the core of the earth. It was probably the least
crazy thing that got emailed to a Netflix producer that week. Still,
it does.
The more important point besides that email is, because sure, like Werner Herzog exists. Of course, talent's going to talent, right? But you hadn't seen like a second of this thing.
No, it's great.
And Joe, the least surprising part of this whole story.
No,
the one thing that everyone agrees about Carl Rinsk. There's two things everyone agrees about him. The guy can't make a fucking profitable film or TV show to save his life, and two, he was so good in the room. He was so good in the room.
Don't undersell it.
Oh, the storyboards he brought to the 47 Ronin pitch were apparently gorgeous.
I bet they were.
Gorgeous.
I bet they were. Look, being good in the room,
Apparently, if you're good in the room, Netflix will give you $55 million basically with no accountability.
Dude, Sam Bankman-Fried got like billions of dollars, and that fucker wasn't even good in the room. He was like a slob in the room.
Terrible in the room.
These fuckers...
He was terrible in the room. Billy McFarlane, though, apparently very good in the room, which is how he got Firefest. Joe, are you ready to start this week's movies, baby?
Yes.
For real?
Yes.
Oh, Carson, roll that fanfare.
Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm joined by my co-host Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! We're coming to you live from the San Fernando Valley, baby, and boy, oh boy, today on the show we've got tales from an industry in crisis. Not just Carl Rinsk and his Netflix spending spree, but we're going to be talking about two high-profile, mismanaged projects from two major studios. Of course, that's Disney's Snow White and Warner Brothers' The Alto Knights. We saw them, we'll review them, and we'll also dig into what these movies say about the state of the industry and their respective studios. And as a little palate cleanser, Joe, in the second half of the show, this is for Patreon subscribers only, we're celebrating one of our favorite filmmakers of all time, Harmony Korine, because not only did we see his brand new movie, Baby Invasion, which you can watch now on his Edgelord website, edgelord.com. I don't know, it's spelled, just look it up, you'll find it. We also saw Spring Breakers in IMAX, which A24 was nice enough to put together a little IMAX re-release of Spring Breakers. So we're going to talk all about our one of our favorite directors, Harmony Korine, in the second half of the show, and that's for Patreon subscribers only. Sign up at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. Start with a 7-day free trial. Dip your toes in the water, see if you like it, and you will if you're a movie lover, baby, because that's where the movie lovers congregate.
Come in. Water's warm.
But we got a long road to travel before then, Joe, starting with Snow White. This week on Movies, Baby, Snow White finally arrives in theaters, and despite a bit of a late resurgence going into the weekend, it ended up being the bomb that everyone expected. People are pointing fingers all over the place, but who's really to blame for the Snow White debacle? And what about the movie itself? Joe and I saw it. We're going to review it. But first, Carson, show me the numbers. And by numbers, you know what I mean. It's those weekend box office returns, baby. There it is. Snow White made $43 million domestic, and an additional 44 in international markets, so that's 87 million total opening weekend against a $270 million production budget. Now, Joe, on the bright side, this is
ridiculous.
Second biggest. That is ridiculous.
That's one of the most expensive. We were excoriating The Electric State for being $300 million, and that was put together with streaming financing.
Yes, exactly.
This is a theatrical distributed picture. $270 million.
Exactly. Because if you'll remember, we estimated that if Electric State was financed as a theatrical release, it would probably be under $200 million. So this is like if Electric State cost $500 million. Right. $270 million is way too much to spend on pretty much any movie, but definitely on the Snow White live-action remake. On the bright side, though, this is the second biggest U.S. opening of the year, and Snow White is already the 6th biggest movie of the year worldwide after only only one
nice
weekend.
Of you. Did Disney pay you for that one?
No,
that was a good one.
The big asterisk there is it's been a bad year, famously a very slow year for theatrical releases, and so to put this in a more suitable context, 43 million is. It's less than Disney's own conservative projections. They were hoping for 50 million opening weekend. And compared to Disney's other live-action remakes, this is the lowest domestic opening yet. This is lower even than Dumbo, which made 45 million opening weekend in 2019. It's way lower than the ones that hit. Little Mermaid, Jungle Book, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, all of those made over 100 million domestic opening weekend. And if we look at Dumbo as the closest parallel, then Dumbo ended up taking in $353 million total over its run. So if Snow White stays under that number or around that number, it won't get anywhere close to profit on a $270 million budget. It would need to get to around $600 million to see profit on this big of a budget, which would require some major staying power. It would need to pick up steam in the next couple weekends, but with the lukewarm reviews and the sort of continuing bad vibes around the movie, that seems very unlikely. And let's talk more about Snow White now. And we can put away the box office numbers for just a second. So thus ends the long tortured road of Snow White, a movie that, as we discussed last week, was plagued over the last 3 years of its production by this nonstop litany of controversies, some of them real, most of them imagined. There was the way that the Seven Dwarfs were going to be presented on screen. There was Rachel Zegler's public critiques of the original film. I should say very light critiques of the original film. And I also saw a very savvy internet detective went back and found all of the other Disney princesses from the other live-action movies literally saying the exact same thing in their press tours about how it's not going to be an old-fashioned princess, it's going to be a new princess, and it didn't matter. And then when Zegler says it, suddenly it's a fucking firestorm, I guess because she's Latina and all these Disney adults are racist. You're racist, Disney adults. Get better. There was also, the politics of Zegler versus the politics of Gal Gadot. The Zegler's saying stuff about Trump and is pro-Palestine, and then Gadot is obviously pro-Israel. There was MAGA lunatics who didn't like the omission of the song "Someday My Prince Will Come" from the movie. There's just this nonstop, just seemed like storm of again, sort of mostly imagined, some real controversies that just created such bad vibes and such a dark cloud over this movie that it just ultimately could not escape. And even last week, Joe, they did Gal Gadot's Walk of Fame star ceremony. It's like, guys, what? And of course, inevitably, there was pro-Palestinian protesters, and then there were counter-protesters, and then they get in a fucking fist fight across from the Walk of Fame. It's like, of course that's gonna happen. Put Gal Gadot on a fucking island somewhere. Jesus, what are they doing? Anyway, at the end of the day, Joe, who do you blame? Let's play the blame game here. Who do you blame ultimately for the underperformance of Snow White, the live-action remake?
Brett, we blame the same person. The blame is with Disney.
Thank you.
The blame is with the Disney Corporation.
It's on you, Disney.
You overthought this one. Through all of the ups and the downs, you didn't just keep your nose to the grindstone and put together the picture. You had to engage, outside of Snow White, you had to engage politically for the past 3 years, and you sometimes you wanted it, sometimes you didn't, but we're all sick of, I think, Disney's politics, essentially. Like the fact that we're sick of Disney's politics because of our reasons, and they're sick of Disney's politics for their reasons. And it's like, I don't want to say, why does Disney have politics? Like, I actually want everything is politics, but why is Disney focusing so aggressively on these culture war touching points instead of focusing on set design or like branded integrations or where to put Zegler to promote the program? Where were some of these? I feel like everybody at Disney was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, inflating this budget. I know COVID got in the way and probably influenced the budget escalating, but it was mismanagement. It was a mismanaged production, letting it go to 270. It was a mismanaged marketing effort, letting the Zegler and letting Twitter dictate terms of the P&A and of the marketing of this movie. It's so stupid. I saw the movie, Brett. It's like, it's just for like little kids that like songs and like afternoons with their parents at the movie theater. Like a wild overthink. You cast a Latina person as Snow White, just like
cool.
I don't know, like I'm sorry that it doesn't. First of all, how dare you make this a fucking problem? People that care about stuff like this, how dare you?
Yes.
Second of all, Disney, how dare you not just stand behind your obvious casting? Zegler was extraordinary in West Side Story. I mean, I've told the story 10,000 times.
Yes.
It's so simple what happened. She's the best singer of her age at Broadway stuff. She's awesome. She was amazing in West Side Story. Steven Spielberg told Mark Platt she was amazing. Mark Platt put her in Snow White. Great casting choice. Disney decided to pretend like this was a huge problem for 2 years. Instead of just owning it and being like, oh, Zegler just murdered in West Side Story. She's amazing. Oh, and also don't worry about the whiteness. No, she was born in the snow. Shut the fuck up. We're all moving on with our lives. I think because of the machinations at the top of Disney over this period of time. Remember, Chapek turned into Bob Iger, came back again, and Snow White got lost in this moment.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because this is an important moment, because I think, Joe, you're absolutely right. The big problem that doomed Snow White is Disney got so spooked by being accused of being woke. They got so spooked by sort of getting drawn into the culture wars, and they refused to just stand on principle, just market their movies, just business as usual. They got so spooked by this because in 2022, when Bob Iger came back and took over Disney, there was this attempted mutiny on the Disney board led by this absolute maniac called Nelson Peltz. He was the one who was up there in the board saying, we got a black Little Mermaid now, we got a Latina Snow White, Disney's lost its fucking mind. And everybody knew this guy was crazy, but unfortunately in 2025, the craziest guy in the room ultimately sways the conversation, and everyone has to kind of appease him. And so what Bob Iger did was, Bob Iger ultimately was able to sort of win the battle versus Nelson Peltz, but not without taking some major damage, because what he had to do is say, okay, Disney's not woke anymore, we just do entertainment, which is you were never woke to begin with. That's just the perverse
the Little Mermaid
language of the culture war. Yeah,
you're not
just
woke.
Yes, that's just long overdue representation.
One time you cast black person.
But now, because of that whole thing where there was this attempted mutiny, Disney is so freaking scared, so terrified of that woke label, that this whole time, they just tiptoed through the marketing of Snow White. Just, oh, Rachel, no, don't say anything, Rachel, no, Rachel! They couldn't, they were so terrified.
She's
You're
20.
Fucking Disney. You're the biggest company in the world.
Army. Yeah,
market your fucking movie. Just market your movie, okay? Don't worry. Because the thing,
Snow White.
Don't you realize that the thing about the culture wars now is it is just this on Twitter, this on Fox News. If you marketed the hell out of Snow White, everybody's coming to Snow White opening weekend. Everyone's taking their kids to Snow White. You know why Trump was elected? It's not because everybody on the face of the earth understands the minutia of every fucking Twitter argument. It's because most people don't pay attention. Most people don't pay attention to what's going on. And it would have been the same thing with Snow White. If you had just marketed the hell out of it, the most people, red state, blue state, doesn't matter. They don't know fuck all about what Rachel Zegler said. They don't even know the name Rachel Zegler. All they know is the name Snow White. And if you had shoved that name down people's throats for a year instead of tiptoeing around the marketing of the movie because you were so terrified that you had a Latina Snow White that didn't like Trump, you would have had a $100 million opening, and we would have been back on track for the 2025 box office, and everything would have been fucking rosy. But now the town's in fucking crisis, and the industry's in fucking crisis because you got to kowtow to people like this maniac Nelson Peltz on the Disney board. Fuck you, Disney.
Yeah. Passionate and true. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, let's talk about the movie. You want to talk about the movie?
Yeah, let's talk about the movie.
Sorry. It's Monday morning. I had two cups of coffee.
No, I agree. No, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yes. So there's been a lot of consternation at the top.
Yes.
And a lot of Chapek and then Iger and then who's going to succeed Iger.
Yeah,
and basically Disney has like other fish to fry. It's why Netflix let that man steal $18 million or $11 million from them.
Yep.
It's like, it's not because I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying it's like they got other fucking things going on, man. And I just wish that it just seems like a slam dunk. Snow White seems easy to make 60 million opening weekend. I don't know.
It's like your
Let's
most
talk about
famous
the movie.
IP. It's yeah. Okay.
Because we believe that good reviews do influence box office returns, and I thought that the reviews were okay coming out for Snow White. Not great.
But it also got like review bombed because all blah 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 this and that. But whatever. It's like the reviews still wouldn't have mattered. It's like you have 2-3 kids on a Saturday. It's like you think you're like looking at the reviews before you go see Snow White. It's like fucking Dog Man made this amount of money on a tiny budget. People are just looking for what the kids movie is. All right, and you hid it from them is the problem. All right, Snow White was directed by Mark Webb, who you know from 500 Days of Summer and a bunch of Spider-Man stuff. It was written by Aaron Cressida Wilson, who wrote Secretary. That's pretty cool. Stars, of course, Rachel Zegler in the title role, Andrew Burnap as the love interest, Gal Gadot as the evil queen, and it's Snow White with a little extra to it. You know, there's like a bandit that she falls in love with. Other than that, it's basically just the Snow White story. So after all that kind of like fuss and commotion and culture war sound and fury, Joe, do you mind if I do a brief review of Snow White? Okay, because I found Snow White to be ultimately, after everything, after all the years of blah, 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 I found it to be pretty much just another mediocre Disney live-action remake that never really figures a way to justify its existence beyond just being an IP cash grab, but is also a totally fine movie to take your kids to on a Saturday. It really doesn't have a fraction of the original movie's sort of magic or mystique that's sort of, you know, I mean, the original Snow White like was one of David Lynch's biggest influences. You know, the original Snow White has that sort of that weird sort of Disney mystique to it, and this one is much more of a kind of like post-Hamilton, post-Frozen, like Broadway influenced Disney movie, but it doesn't really add a whole lot notable to the story. There's little expansions of the world here and there in the characters. Look, we all know Gal Gadot can't act. This is just further proof of that. Zegler, like Joe said, I think was very good. I mean, she is doing what you hired her to do, and so you should have done what you're supposed to do, which is back her up. Like, you paid her to do the thing, and she knocked it out of the park. There was no reason to constantly throw her under the bus at every turn. The CGI dwarves, I kind of didn't think I was going to care, but then they come on screen and I was like, yeah, this is offensive. This is the only part of the whole sort of culture war thing that really I think was worth its salt was they should have cast little people, dwarf actors to be. It's like, that's the whole point isn't that the whole point of doing live action? It's like everyone else is a human being and then you just trot out these CGI dwarves. It's like, I get why the like anthropomorphic like bunnies have to be CGI, but like Peter Dinklage said, there are actors who could play those roles, and it's not just about representation, it's about representation and quality. It would have been so much better if those were human beings. If those were human beings, like I mean, I look, I don't want to belabor the point. It's just like, as soon as they come on the screen, I was like, yeah, that was a mistake. Those should be people. And
the CGI stinks.
And that's the thing. Like, thank you.
And it stinks.
The new songs, I know Joe will disagree with me on this. I thought the new songs were largely forgettable. They were striving for like kind of Frozen songbook type songs. They were looking for their Let It Go, and I just didn't think they found it. The songs were just sort of rambly. They didn't really have great melodies or hooks to them. And the last thing I want to say about Snow White before I hand it over, Joe, is that if I can get on my dirty little soapbox for a second again, my nasty little soapbox
Jesus,
that I trot around everywhere when I have a point to make.
Let me guess, you're mad about, I don't know.
This movie, Joe, is doing this very obnoxious thing that Frozen also does, and I love Frozen. You know I'm a huge fan of Frozen and Frozen 2, and actually Frozen 2 does this a little more than Frozen 1. But Disney does this thing now where I think they've gotten a little anxious about the fact that their entire like IP is like a celebration of monarchy, and they've gotten like a little anxious around like kings and queens and castles, and so their solution is to like distinguish between like a benevolent monarchy and like a tyrannical monarchy. So Snow White, much like Frozen 2, starts with this big song where everyone in the town is singing about how fair and just everything is. And the Snow White comes down from the castle with her dad, the king, and they circulate among the nasty little peasants, and they give meaning to their lives, and everything's fine. And Snow White trots out her annual like apple pie buffet that she makes for all the little nasty little peasants in the town, and they're so grateful for their beautiful just princess. But the second they were like, hey, can we like spend a night in the castle, she'd be like, no, away with you, back to the town with you. I am just sick of like, this is again Disney just sort of like that's exactly my point, Joe. That's exactly my point. It's a fucking fairy tale. These are tropes, okay? These are tropes. You don't have to, like, justify the benevolence of the monarchy. It's fucking weird. It's a princess because it's a fucking trope, because it's a fucking fairy tale. So just make her a princess. And then you can also have an evil queen, okay? But I don't need this pandering, this fucking nonsense pandering about how monarchies can actually be these, like, benevolent, like feudalism can actually work if the person at the top
I don't
is
think
good.
that's the point. Is that feudal? I don't think Disney's secret message here is feudalism can work.
They're trying to candy coat feudalism because they're anxious about the fact that all of their stories are centered around the monarchy. But my point is, you don't have to be anxious about that. It's a fucking trope from a fairy tale. Just do it. My point is, have you seen Frozen 2?
No.
The exact same like song is in Frozen 2, where like the town is like baking a big meal.
It always starts with a big music.
I don't like this thing about how like, but the message of the songs is like, this is the most just system of a society. Is the message of these songs?
Well, you know what?
It's not, but that's fine. Nobody cares.
I'll take this, and I'm gonna you finish.
I'm done. 2.5 stars. It's all right. It's all right.
I'm bridging over from that fairy tale trope thing. Like, the problem with this movie, I'll start with some problems. It's so like, okay, I couldn't tell for the first like 75% if this was good or bad. Like, it's so radically simple, and I feel like this one was pitched down. Like, they wanted to make this one, which is a totally fine choice. They pitched it for like 5 to 10 year olds. Like, this movie is, I don't want to say stupid, it's for like young children. Like, everything is very black and white, cut and dry, good and evil, and that's not, it's just like, it's notable, and it seeps into all of the art directing choices in the movie, and it makes it, I feel like it was a missed opportunity, because the gems are very like cartoony, the costumes are very monotoned or very simple, like with the trimmings are like very thick of all the costumes to denote sort of just like shape. Gal Gadot's castle is like shapely, the cottage is cute,
yeah.
But all of these elements, I felt like this is where the budget could have been spent so much better to make the world richer, to make people want to go. Like, the town was so rote, and the costume, except Snow White's iconic costume, was so rote, and the, you know, it just like and all of the imagery was so banal and boring, and I feel like sometimes they just let bad things go because they were like, this is for 6-year-olds, instead of being like, you know what the best part about Disney is like, the line is part of the ride. It's like, give me cottage, give me gems, give me costumes, give me plates and cups. This thing looks just like so flat and uninspired, and it's making me uninterested. So that's my first sort of like aesthetic thing. On the CGI front, a ton of it. These movies, these Disney live actions are just flush with CGI. Fine, bet. I agree with Brett, though. The dwarves CGI was ugly and scary. Like, they scared me.
Truly, yeah.
They didn't look cute or funny or any of those things.
The missed opportunity is like, the second I heard hi-ho, I was like, let's fucking go!
Time for hi-ho!
And then when those dumb CGI dwarfs, like, imagine if that was Peter Dinklage leading like real people, they're all real people, you'd be like, fucking hi-ho!
I do like whatever happened to like makeup and prosthetics and you know, do fucking Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. Like, give me some dwarves, baby. Anyway,
you have $270 million to play with.
But also, like with the dwarves, okay, they're CGI. Why are their hats' colors so muted? For real, why is their costume so dirty? Like, I get they work in a mine. It's like we're doing Snow White. Like, why isn't Dopey's hat dopey green? Why isn't Sleepy's hat sleepy yellow? Like, I've seen these fucking characters on every gigantic person's t-shirt at an airport for fucking 50 years. Can I see, excuse me, I take that back. Can I see the colors are wrong? Okay.
Yes.
This movie's like muted at the wrong parts. It's simple in the wrong parts. Let's get to some things that I liked about it really quick, though. Here's what I did like about it. Number one, Rachel Zegler's awesome. She's really good. Snow White's a fucking miserable character to have to play, especially in this version. It's like she's like the opposite of a character. Like, she's just goodness incarnate, and somehow Zegler makes that all work. It's like I've never seen such a Disney princess be so one-dimensional in my entire life. Snow White is like the boringest, flattest, like loser, like simple princess ever. Zegler makes her this like wonderfully warm person that could inspire a feudal town to enjoy her pie. Like, she is so great. She's so good at singing. She's giving so much charm and energy, and she's acting with just CGI wall, CGI dwarf, CGI munchkin, and Gal Gadot. Like, it's so bad. Like, she's working with nothing, and she's really making a meal out of it. Gal Gadot. Okay. This is Gal Gadot's best performance ever. Easily the height of Gal Gadot's career is in this film. Gal Gadot can sing? I didn't know that. Gal Gadot can make a mean face? I didn't know that. Gal Gadot can like approach understanding like the joke here? What? Gal Gadot is evil stepmother. That's like what her core thing is. Like, I liked the casting. Like, all Gal Gadot gives to me is evil stepmother. It's like a person that's like a monster, but is beautiful, and like, why is she with my dad? Evil stepmother. Gal Gadot. So casting wise, fine. And she sang pretty good. Songs? Joey Likey the songs.
Okay.
Joey Likey songs.
I don't know what you're listening to. The new songs?
So this is
the new songs?
I liked some of the new songs. So Pasek and Paul, the duo of duos, was doing this one too. And this is like a Wicked inspired, like the producers of Wicked made this. Pasek and Paul did the music. Like, it's all very like good, getting the crew together. But actually, the same problems I had with the visuals of Wicked is the same problems I have with the visuals of Snow White. And I think that this production team skimps on the like world and just like leans into CGI and spends their money in other ways. And I actually hate that. I this movie could have really benefited from some better looking sets. But the point of all that is the songs. Okay, I like the entrance song. Musically, compositionally, I liked the big.
The Feudalism is Good song?
Feudalism is Good was like very good opener. Number 2, the new I Want song that Zegler sings, Wishing on a Wish or whatever. Awesome. Actually, terribly directed, miserable to look at, totally uninspired on the screen. Composition wise, Zegler's performance, I thought that I Want song on the new Snow White was really good. Hi Ho, again,
rocks.
To look at it, makes you want to stand up and leave the movie theater to listen to it. Good job.
Close your eyes.
Hi ho. Thank you.
I recommend closing your eyes.
Whistle while we work. Love that. Now the right wants to complain that they didn't put, what's it?
Someday My Prince Will Come.
Someday My Prince Will
was
Come.
so pized. It's as everyone knows, it's Jack Posobiec's favorite song. His two favorite things are shutting down pizza restaurant, pedophile rings, and the song One Day My Prince Will Come.
Well, here's the thing. I agree. Specifically in this way. One Day My Prince Should Come. Should have been in the movie, but then you do like anything can be a prince. Like, you subvert it and change it a little bit. It's so like easy.
It's so easy.
Like, someday my prince will come, and sometimes like, and the prince can be like a friend or this or that. Because I hated Princess Problems, the song, and I hated the band.
Stuff.
Princess Problems was so bad, and all of the songs after it were bad too. But like the way that they like modernized it without a prince, with this like bandit love interest guy, Robin Hood, fucking stunk.
Yeah.
Just update the prince, update what a prince can be, update the song. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, if I'm sitting there and I'm gonna redo Snow White, I'm gonna take like the 5 things that people still know about Snow White and put it in my movie, including the very famous song "Someday My Prince Would Come."
Like
just
be
cute.
You can cleverly subvert it in ways if you want to, whatever. It's like, but don't not do the song.
It's fucking weird not doing it.
It's honestly emblematic of Disney's entire approach to this movie, which is like, we want to do Snow White, but not at all do Snow White is the plan. Great plan to spend $270 million on. There's plenty of ways around whatever little sort of updating things you wanted to do. Can you imagine when Snow White would bring once a year, when she brought her like apple pies to the town and everyone had to eat them, and they're like, there's like a really talented baker that like lives in the town. Like, can you imagine how shitty those fucking pies are?
Anyway,
everyone has to eat them and be like, yeah, yum, Snow White. And it's like, tell Snow White the pies are good. She's the king's daughter.
I thought this movie was like really bad, but Zegler is legitimately like a movie star, and I'm here for it. And Gal Gadot, greatest performance of her entire life, easily. Like, find me which Gal Gadot performance you like more.
Here's the thing, Joe.
Find it.
Joe is correct. I was like, you have.
I didn't know she had like, and by range I mean this much.
No.
4 inches of range.
We're not saying
I didn't know she could get mad.
We're not saying it's good. We're saying it's her best performance
and sing. I'm sure she's not. I'm sure it's all computer. Like, I was blown away by Gal doing like 3 things.
And I was also like, oh, she must think she's like fucking Meryl Streep right now. She's like, I didn't know I had this murdering.
In me. She thinks she's serving. She thinks the gays are going to be there for it. No one's going to be there for it. It's so bad. Although I liked her number. 2 stars. This movie's bad, Brett. Bad. 2 stars.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, Joe, let's talk about the other big budget release this weekend, a movie that somehow had an even worse weekend than Snow White. I'm, of course, talking about the Alto Knights. This week on Movies Baby, Barry Levinson's mob drama, The Alto Knights, hit theaters with a resounding thud, like the sound of a body hitting the bottom of the East River. Not even Robert De Niro playing 2 mob bosses, and a script by Goodfellas scribe Nicholas Pileggi was enough to get people out to see this $50 million bomb. So what happened here? Joe and I have the autopsy, but first, Carson, let's take a look at the box office, baby. Let's take a look at the money. All right, so Alto Knights.
Alto Knights opened 6 on 2,600 screens.
2,600 screens.
$3.1 million opening.
We'll round it up to 3.2. Why not? 3.2 million opening weekend. Joe, for a little bit of context here, that is lower than the second week of Novocaine. So 2 Robert De Niro's could not beat Jack Quaid in the second weekend. That's below the 3rd week of Mickey 17, below the 4th week of Captain America, below the 2nd week of Black Bag. Holy shit, Joe! This is a major bomb. It did pick up an additional 1.9 million internationally for a grand total of 5 million opening weekend. And once again, that's against the production budget of $50 million.
No.
Now, Joe, that's good. That's enough for the numbers. Get those nasty little numbers off the screen. What a terrible weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Joe, this is a Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah, I can tell.
And
it made $3.2 million opening weekend, and it has De Niro in it twice.
And these are already perilous times for Warner Brothers. They already have this expensive slate of auteur movies this year with Mickey 17, Ryan Coogler's Sinners, PTA's One Battle After Another. Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride just got bumped to next year, which sucks for my fantasy draft team. They also have so much writing on James Gunn's Superman and the DC Universe reimagining, rebranding. And then on top of all that, this is the first true year of the Mike and Pam era. That's Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy, who have been running Warner Brothers Motion Picture Division since July 2022. David Zaslav is, in charge of the entire Warner Brothers Discovery empire, and then Mike and Pam run the Warner Brothers Movie Division. But their previous, 2 years of their tenure have been burdened by all of these movies from the previous regime that they've been forced they've been burdened with. So of course that's Joker 2, which was such a disaster last year, The Flash, all those sort of lukewarm DC movies from the past year to 2 years. And so until this year, this was supposed to be Mike and Pam's big year to shine. Finally, they've cleared out the old slate. Now it's Mike and Pam time, baby. Let's do this. So how the hell did Barry Levinson get Warner Brothers to give him $50 million to make the Alto Knights, Joe? And is it going to fuck up Mike and Pam's big year? Or was their year already fucked up to begin with? Joe, who's to blame for the Alto Knights disaster?
Zaslav. Specifically, and not in like a big picture way. Specifically David Zaslav.
How did this happen?
He got cornered in the Hamptons by two old heads.
True story.
And they told him, the Wexlers, and they were like,
"This is Irvin Winkler, who's the producer. Irvin Winkler is the producer of Alto Knights, and Nicholas Pileggi, who wrote Goodfellas, is the writer. These guys are both in their 90s right now, and I'm not trying to be ageist, but that is objectively very old. They are both in their 90s, and they are Zaslav's neighbors in the Hamptons.
Yes. So one night they're all hanging out, and they insist that if David wants to be a hotshot and live in Robert Evans' house and be Warner Brothers,
which he had just bought,
then you got to make the Alto Knights. And Zaslav,
you want to be Bobby Evans, baby? You got to make the Alto Knights. We got the script right here, baby.
He can't say no to these two 90-year-old men, and he can't even just say yes to their face and then say no behind their back, because the next day then he forces Michael and Pam, as one of their first projects is, okay, do whatever you guys want, but you have to make the Alto Knights. Without a doubt, you got to make the Alto Knights.
You can do whatever you want in addition to making the Alto Knights.
You know, there's something they call like new owner syndrome in the NBA. When one of these big dick billionaires buys an NBA franchise, the first thing they do is they think they know better, and they do the stupidest shit in the world. Mm-hmm. When Ishbia bought the Phoenix Suns 2 years ago, he traded every asset, every piece of draft capital that they had, and he said, just get me Kevin Durant, and I don't care. And in fact, get me Bradley Beal and his no trade clause too. I know what the fuck. We're going to be an offensive powerhouse. That team is miserable.
They're
unwatchable.
They're not going to make the playoffs.
They're all going to be traded off. Even Devin Booker's going to go. What I'm saying is Zaslav fucking new owner syndrome to this. He went into Michael and Pam and he said, I know what I'm doing. I am the CEO now. I ran Discovery. I know about movies. Guess what's good movies, Mike and Pam? Goodfellas is a good movie, you dumb shits. Make a fucking mob movie, you dumb shits. It's got De Niro in it twice, you dumb shits. It's going to make money hand over fist, you fucking shits.
Hey, and good news, it's no longer called Wise Guys, the original title. It's now called the Alto Knights. Do you see the potential? They're going to come out in droves for the Alto Knights. No, they're not. Although I do want to give props to these two 90-year-old power brokers.
They're not to blame.
Nicholas Pileggi and Irwin Winkler.
They're my heroes.
Can you imagine that night? The bullshit expensive wine that Zaz cracked open.
No, dude, no.
And they leaned across the table and
they were cracking Sambuca. They were doing aperitifs.
Yes.
Like they were out on the patio.
They did a Sangiovese first though, and then they got into the aperitifs.
Yeah, and they're doing like,
and they're drinking. They are so deep into Sambuca or whatever, and then they look across the table and they go, Zaz. Don't let us die without making the Alto Knights. This is all we want to do with the rest of our life. Don't let us die with the Alto Knights still on the table. You gotta let us make this movie, Zaz. And Zaz said, all right. I'm the new Robert Evans. I got you. I'll see what I can do. And then he told Mike and Pam, all right, you gotta make the Alto Knights. And bad news, it has a $50 million budget.
Well,
good luck.
Now my second piece of blame. That budget. So every single other decision this year from Mickey 17 to PTA to Minecraft, that's all going to wash up on the shores of Mike and Pam's feet. Alto Knights, they kind of get a mulligan because their boss, Zaz, forced them to do it. But
Zaz ain't taking the blame for this one.
What's up with that fucking $50 million price
Thank you,
tag,
Joe.
Brett?
This is the big problem.
This is Warner Brothers' problem this year. Are these preposterous budgets? $200 million for Mickey 17, $200 million for PTA, $50 million for Barry Levinson's mob drama, The Alto Knights. Way overpriced. Like, we always talk about how media is shifting and changing and entertainment is changing. One dinosaur, Brett, that I'm picking up on is these fucking budgets.
Yes.
Because our whole entire business model here at Forever Dog is to find a way to make cost-controlled content on platforms. We distribute on platforms that we now compete with these major players like YouTube and Spotify and things like that. So while people like us are putting YouTube content out at a low cost, these guys are putting out content at an extremely high number for no fucking reason. It's yesterday's paper. It's graft. It's a system that's bloated and is going to self-implode.
And it ruined the movie. Because let's talk about let's drill down on this, because I saw a post. I see these posts a lot. I know Ethan Hawke said stuff like this, where he's like, "We need to stop talking about the box office and the finances, and just get back to film appreciation, etc." Look, I understand. I get it. We love movies as much as you love movies. The reason we talk about budgets and finances so much is because bad budgets make bad movies. There is a commercial aspect of filmmaking, a major commercial aspect to it, and it goes both ways. So bad budgets to me make bad movies. We saw it last year with like The Fall Guy, which was doomed before it even came out. That could have been a fun little movie, but they fucked it with an oversized budget. Similarly, when you watch The Alto Knights, it's not a terrible movie. And in fact, there is some really good parts that could have made a good movie buried deep within this over-budgeted mess. It's the budget is the problem. I have never seen a movie that could have benefited more from the limitations and constraints of a smaller budget, forcing Barry Levinson, on paper as one of our great filmmakers, to make some decisions, to make some choices. But instead, Barry Levinson got enough money to kind of just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and say he didn't have to sort of scrap any of his ideas. He could kind of do everything. And that's the problem with this movie. It's trying to do way, way, way too fucking much. And it's not relying enough on what is an actually excellent dual performance by Robert De Niro. When you finally get a look at the performance, which doesn't happen till like 30 minutes in, it's like the first time you actually get a scene that's longer than a minute where De Niro actually gets to work on some dialogue. You're like, oh wait, De Niro's like doing work here. Like, wait a second, what's going on? This is actually really interesting. The problem is Levinson's spending every dime of that $50 million, putting it all on screen, and what you have is a fucking mess. Because also, $50 million is not $100 million. $50 million is kind of a sort of terribly in the middle purgatory budget where you think you have a lot of money. I went back and looked, Joe, and I'm losing my voice. I've been yelling so much in this episode. I went back and looked. I was like, when was the last time Barry Levinson got north of 50? It got like 50 million plus for a movie. I went back and looked at all, because he's been making movies consistently. I went back and looked. You have to go to 2001, Bandits, which is a good movie. I like Bandits. 2001 is the last time he got over $50 million. That's so long. So I think, A, I think Barry Levinson thought $50 million was more than it actually is. And B, it's not enough to like do what he was trying to do, which is like mob epic. That's not mob epic money. That's kind of weird in the middle money. What you should have done is give Barry Levinson $10 million to make this movie, so he had to make some fucking choices. And the choices he would have made was, let's focus on Robert De Niro's performance and this like one cool set piece I came up with at the end, because that's the fucking movie. This like Time Life documentary about the history of the mob that he like plasters on the top of the movie is a fucking distraction from the good stuff. More De Niro, baby. More Bobby. How? Of course. Like, duh. It's a fucking mob movie. Let the man work. Stop getting in his way.
There were a lot of problems with this movie. It was overlong. It was oddly paced. It was didn't understand what was good or bad about certain parts, and I think it was pretty slow. That being said, I did think that Robert De Niro was really good in this movie. Did you have real quick? This movie, just what it's about?
Yes, thank you.
It's about it's based on a true story about Frank Costello, the big boss of the mafia in the late 50s, and this friend, partner of his, Vito, that's come back out of jail.
Vito Genovese.
And Vito Genovese is going to take the mob into the drug world and going to ruin the mob that Frank Costello loved. And Frank is played and Vito is played both by Robert De Niro.
Yeah. It's the plot of The Godfather. It's like new mafia versus old mafia.
Exactly. And Vito's like the Joe Pesci-esque mafia type, and Frank is the De Niro-esque mafia type, right? If we were going to cast it with not two De Niros. So Vito and Frank, De Niro does a high Pesci-esque sort of thing for Vito.
Genovese,
that was a terrible impression. But he does like the thing. He does the high thing. He does the talky thing. He does the high thing. And it's actually great. And then he does the De Niro thing for the other character. I thought it was great too. I like mob stories. I like mob movies. I like the sounds and the styles of mob movies. But this really is those guys really must be 95 watching this thing, because it's like we've heard this story. It's a really good story. We've heard the story 1 million times. Yeah. The mob gets into drugs. We've seen De Niro play these guys 1 million times. Still the best. And at the Robert De Niro Memorial Film Festival, I will be there at 11 p.m. to watch the Alto Knights. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be there. De Niro
I will have to consider this performance for our best of he's doing work. And I was surprised by how he justifies the dual roles, because like Joe's saying, it's basically like the id and the superego of the mafia. It's like the old gentleman version of the mafia and like the new violent fucking fuck it all up chaos Joker version of the mafia. And so I was like, oh, this actually makes sense. It makes sense that you did De Niro in both roles, and I see what you're doing here. I have to look through 1,000 layers of bullshit to find it, but it's down there. There's a good idea down there.
Well, it just it has that De Niro element, but then it doesn't have things that also make exciting mob movies. I don't know. It's very limited in its ambitions. It's a lot of talking, which I don't mind, but it's sort of odd because Brad and I were talking before the show. There are these set piece moments that are really good. There's in the third act, all of the mob leaders, this is a true story, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling it.
No, this isn't spoiling.
All the mob leaders meet up in this field in upstate New York, and it draws the suspicions of the police, and they all end up running away, and they all kind of get caught, and they all sort of get taken in, and
they're getting stuck in the mud, and they're having to flee through the woods.
Well, anyway,
it's a fun set
this
piece.
is a movie.
Yes.
This is the movie.
Yes.
This is an amazing thing.
Yes.
The mob is transferring over leadership from Frank to Vito, and every mob leader from Nevada to Connecticut is going to be in one field in upstate New York at this bootlegger's house, and the police come and they all scurry away. I mean, that's fucking fantastic.
No, it was great.
And it was great in the movie.
It was great.
But this movie has an hour and a half lead up full of these weird, just so much history. And it was and I actually, look, I like this story, but got it. Prohibition, the mob, got it. Got it.
Let me put it this way. If you lose Joe on the history of the mafia, you're doing too much of it, and you're doing it too much of a boring way.
Too slow.
Yes. Yeah.
And whatever, I'm happy to be at the movies and not, dealing with work or with something hard.
Low bar.
But you do got to speed it up. So anyway, all in all, it wasn't this miserable flop everybody had me sort of anticipating. It was a sort of lifeless at times, inspired at times, fun mob movie that shouldn't have cost $50 million. But I will be watching it at the Robert De Niro late career film festival.
Yes.
I will be checking out Alto Knights. I'm going to give this movie 2.5 stars, Brett. I thought this movie was all right.
That's fair. Movie was all right. I'm going to give it 2 stars. There was just too much that was bad about it to go any higher than that. But for a 2-star movie, I'm actually going to recommend that you watch it for De Niro's performance, which once you sort of find the performance and get to it in the movie, again, he's doing some phenomenally interesting work here. And he's giving you 2 very distinct performances. He makes the dual casting work. It's not like a stunt. It works for the movie, and could have been I think a lot more interesting if not for all the bells and whistles, which I blame on that $50 million budget, and I also blame Zaz for that. I don't think Barry Levinson is to blame here. He had to spend the $50 million. He had to find something to spend it on.
It was
and he's not a crook.
directed.
He's not a true. But he's not a crook. He's not going to buy $900,000 of betting.
He's not a crook.
Money.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's the Alto Knights review. We both thought De Niro was good. These guys,
he honestly might be on my year-end best of.
Same with me and Zegler and Snow White. The guys and girls on the internet will tell you that De Niro's like bad in this movie.
They're wrong.
Like,
they're wrong.
That's
They're
just
wrong. They're wrong.
That's just not true.
It's a little bit of a slow starter because Levinson's like not letting him do like full scenes until like fucking 30 minutes in. But there's a scene that takes place like way too late in, where it's De Niro versus De Niro. They're across the table from each other and he's doing his two different characters, and they're both doing that like mob euphemism speak where they're like, dark De Niro, Joe Pesci De Niro is basically saying like, if you keep going down this road, I'm gonna have to kill you. And then like the Vito Corleone De Niro, the businessman De Niro is going, we don't have to. Let's not do that. But they're using these euphemisms, and it's like so electric. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I'm into the Alto Knights.
I was into the Alto Knights too.
Yeah.
That's why, like, 2.5 stars.
I do blame Levinson. Levinson, whatever.
He was bad.
Yeah, it's poorly directed.
Like, someone better at directing. The Alto Knights has all such fertile ground.
I know. We
want to remake Alto Knights. We were thinking we're going to recut Alto Knights.
We have to recut Alto Knights.
We're going to recut Alto Knights.
We're going to do a Steven Soderbergh recut of Alto Knights.
We're recutting it. We'll put it on YouTube.
That's a great idea.
I'm recutting the Alto Knights.
That's a great idea.
Good.
There's a good movie in there, and we're going to find it. All right, next week on the show, we are. Oh, Joe, I cannot wait. I can't believe this didn't show up on our fantasy teams.
I know.
Jason Statham is back.
Yes.
We loved him last year in The Beekeeper. And now we get him with the same director. It's funny because they're doing Beekeeper 2, but they couldn't even wait for Beekeeper 2. David Ayers and Statham had to knock out another one in the meantime.
Human traffickers, beware.
You know what? Actually, beware. I think that's a sneaky little Beekeeper reference. So I'm going to call this Beekeeper 2, and then Beekeeper 2 is Beekeeper 3 in movies, baby. Lore.
Right.
Okay? Human traffickers, beware. I can't wait for this. It's
like Statham's holding a shotgun like a cock. Like it's like we're sitting on. It's like he's teabagging us in the poster. Big gun,
and he has like
a
giant sledgehammer,
massive sledgehammer,
like they used to build the railroad.
He looks so mad too.
All right, yeah. If you're a human trafficker, honestly, beware.
I would be terrified.
Honestly, beware. And then we also have. I'm always down for a horror movie, particularly one with like a high concept premise. Let's do it. The Woman in the Yard from Blumhouse. I don't know. Is James Wan in on this? I don't know who's in on this.
I don't think so.
Okay,
but
we would see Atomic Monster.
I'm excited for this one just because of this poster. Like, look at that woman in that yard. Like, scary.
Scary.
Got it.
Cool trailer.
I don't want her to be in my yard. Got it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So this will be a fun little like B movie weekend. We got a low sort of lower budget horror. You're right. Positive B movie, like the current state of B movies. This is what it is, right? That's a compliment.
It's pure instinct.
It's just because you think so highly of Statham.
Statham is not an A-lister. He's like an A-plus lister.
Well, we think so highly of Statham that in addition to reviewing Working Man next week, in the second half of next week's show, oh boy, we are going to give you our top 5 Jason Statham action movies. We are currently binging them at an unhealthy rate. We are rewatching. Some of them we're watching for the first time. And this is just the action movies. So we're taking out like Snatch, Lock, Stock. We're taking out some of like the rom-coms and the comedies. This is just going to be pure Statham action. Your transporters, your mechanics, your
cranks, your beekeepers.
Your beekeepers. We are going to give you the top 5 of that specific type of Jason Statham movie. So the next time you're like, oh, I want to throw on a Jason Statham action movie tonight, you have our list of the top 5. You know what to. Because look, I will say,
not like
there's some
Statham's
great ones.
Great in this one.
Yeah, no,
in Lock, Stock.
The movies,
No.
The movies.
It's like this is a Statham movie.
Yes,
he's gonna kick butt.
Yes. And like there are some really good ones. There are a lot of shit ones. This might be our most useful list ever because people really need to know like how to navigate the Statham action filmography.
Stathamverse,
and we are going to do the work for you. That's next week on Patreon. But right now, for Patreon only. We are talking about Harmony Korine. We're talking about Baby Invasion, his new movie, which we saw. We're going to talk about the IMAX release of Spring Breakers, which we saw. That's coming up in a mere 5 minutes, but it's only on Patreon at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. Sign up, get a 7-day free trial. You don't even have to pay today. You can pay later. You can enjoy us free for 7 days, and you're not going to want to miss our Baby Invasion review. I'm telling you, baby. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss it. So we'll be there. We'll be back in 5 minutes with all of that. We'll see you there. Bye.